Okay, welcome back. Did you have fun playing around with the controls before we started? I hope so. Because that's one of the greatest things about Marvel Designer is playing around with the buttons and seeing what everything does before you get serious and start creating. Okay, so now that we got all the fun and play out of the way, let's start working and making that t-shirt. I always say that making a t-shirt and a pair of pants is the very foundation of making clothes and Marvel's Designer. Once you learn how to make a t-shirt and a pair of pants, everything else just opens up and it's like, oh my god. You'll be making everything. So let us begin with the t-shirt and we'll work our way down to the pants. So I'm going to zoom in on our top body just cuz. Alright. So we're going to be working over here in a 2D window and we're going to select our edit polygon tool, which is, like I said, we're going to be using the most. And we're going to begin by placing down some dots and then connecting those dots and then making a t-shirt. It's so quick, you'll be amazed. So what we want to do is select our polygons to tool thingy magic up here. And we want to place our first dot on the center line or the fold line. It's called the center line and fold line because it's the line that goes right down the center of your avatar. So we're going to start here and we're going to create our first dot on this line. Our first dot is going to be, like I said, how deep you want the neckline of your shirt to be. So we're going to place it kind of like right here. Then we're going to place our next dot up to our shoulder. And then our next line is going to be how long you want your sleeve to be. So right here. The next line is going to be how tight you want the sleeve to be, which is always usually about, if we can zoom in, which is usually about 1.5 blocks tight, which is like normal tight arm. Then we go underneath the armpit. And then the next one is going to be how long you want your t-shirt to be. Now, because this body has a very large bust, we're going to need to make adjustments for it afterwards. So we're just going to make it pretty long, kind of into the hip silhouette. Our next dot is going to be right back at the middle center line. And then we're going to connect it right back up to the top. And that's our t-shirt. Now, we only have half of the t-shirt, half of the front pattern. So what we're going to do is select the white arrow here, our edit pattern tool. And we're going to go back to this middle line. And then you're going to right click. And then you're going to hit unfold. And then there's going to be a new dot that was created, new point. We're just going to click on that and then press our delete key and get rid of it. Now we have the front part of our pattern and we need the back. So we just right click on it, copy, and then paste. And you want to make sure that your patterns that you make are not overlapping each other and they're not too close together like this. You want to give them a little bit of space in between them, and that helps us out in Blender later on. So we have our front pattern, we have our back pattern, and because they're not showing up over here, what do we have to do? That's right, we push the button to sync, and then you see our patterns pop up on the screen. So now we have to do is we have the front pattern, we have our back pattern, and we need to put our back pattern behind the avatar. So whenever you are working in Marvelous Designer 2 and you need to put a pattern behind an avatar, and you need to flip the pattern. Now, this is because if you don't flip it, it will show up in Second Life invisible, which sucks because you'll have the front of your pattern there, your front of your garment there, and your back be totally invisible. So to prevent this from happening, we just need to click on our pattern that's going behind us, and then we just right click, and then we hit flip horizontally, and you see it turns gray. This is the wrong side facing us, and then the right side is on the right. And then we just slide it on behind your character like this. Okay. Now we have it here. It's time for us to begin the fun part of Marvelous Designer, and that is the sewing. Now, before we begin sewing, I want to position this so that the front part of the t-shirt is close to the avatar, but not so close that her body's going through it. We don't want the shirt to come together and, go through her chest. We want it to lay on top of her chest, not through it. So next thing we need to do is start our sewing process. And that's these buttons up here. We're just going to select this middle one that says segment sewing. And we're going to zoom in so you guys can see. Now we're going to hold our mouse on the edge of the garment. And you see that when you have it on the edge, there's a line that will show up here and it's all highlighted. When it's highlighted like this, you're just going to click and then drag it over to the other opposite edge. And you want to click. And then you'll see that some colored lines will show up. If your lines are a different color than mine, don't worry about it. Marvelous generates these lines at a random color. So you're doing it fine as long as your line's like this. Now, you see how straight these lines are? You want to make sure that the lines are always straight like this. You don't want to have crooked lines. This is very important because I guess I should show you what I mean by crooked lines. So if you're sewing and your lines are like this is a bad example of sewing. You don't want twisted lines like this because what it is telling Marvelous Designer how to sew your garment. So when we have lines like this, these nice straight lines, this is us telling Marvelous Designer, take this line and that line and sew them together. When they're twisted like this is telling Marvelous Designer, take this line and that line and sew them together but twist it up in the middle, and then you'll get a really nasty error and it will mess up your garment. Sometimes some people may want that twist, but in most cases you don't want that twist. So if you find that you have twisted lines, you can just press Control Z and then re-sew them and then make twisted straight lines. But if you find that your lines are twisted and you can't Control Z it back, just select this button right here, the Edit Seam Line. Then select the line that is twisted, the edge. Right click on it and then press Reverse Seam Line and it'll straighten out your edges for you. So now the fun part begins where you just go back into segment sewing and you just sew your edges of your t-shirt around, making sure that all your lines are nice and straight. So we want to get the sides under the arm, leaving the armhole open, of course, because that's where your arm is going to go through. So here, and so right there. Of course, we got some twisted lines. I'm just going to untwist it. There we go. So once your lines are nice and sewn and you have it around your body, we're going to press the simulation button, and that's going to turn our pattern into a garment, which is so exciting. I'm just going to make a few more adjustments, make sure it's nice in there. And then we're going to press the play button and boom, there you go. We have a t-shirt. Now sometimes when you're working on a t-shirt like this, you may have to use the pattern edit tool and pull it down in the front a little bit so that it goes down. When I first made my t-shirt for this body, I didn't do that, so I had a crop top. And so I had to keep pulling it down until it worked. For this body, actually, if you're trying to just make a small short shirt like this, then it's fine. But if you want to cover all of her hips or something like that, that's a little bit different. In fact, I think I might make an extra video for that later on. But for right now, we're just going to make a small shirt for her. And I'll talk about the expanded shirt for her body later. So congratulations, you have just created your first t-shirt in Marvelous Designer. I may have to edit this a little bit. I'm sorry, I got like OCD when it comes to stuff like this. So I'm going to take this and pull it down a little bit more just to make it even. There we go. Oh, it's the back. Let me scoop up the back of it. Okay, there we go. Now it's even. Now, because I don't like having a dip in my back like that, I'm just going to delete this point here. And I'm going to use the curve just to make a small neck. And I'm going to do the same thing for up here. We'll do the same thing up here. And we're going to give it a smoother collar. A little smoother. There we go. Now worry because it may be a little, once the arm bends, the collar may go over to the shoulders. So I'm going to use the edit points and pull it up a little more. And do the same back here. There, now it's a t-shirt. Alright, so now we have our t-shirt here. We can go on to making our pair of pants, which is very similar to the t-shirt. We're just going to draw a picture of pants and then sew it onto the body. So I'm going to pull this over here, get it out of the way. So like before, we're going to start on the seam line, the middle line. Hang on one second, honey. I gotta pause this. Whew, okay. So I'm sorry about that. Somebody asked a question and I had to go and answer. Okay, so we were talking about pants. So I'm gonna select our middle, create polygon thing, and we're gonna start up high because there's a lot of body to cover here. So we're gonna start up high on the center line, somewhere where I guess the belly button would be. And we're gonna click here. Now to help me make very straight lines, I'm going to hold down the shift button, and that's going to make it snap onto a grid. And we're going to go just below the crotch here. Don't worry if it's a little low, we're going to fix that later on. Then we're going to make a backwards L against her leg, L, and then we're going to drag it down to how long or how tight we want the leg to be. I'm going to make these fairly tight, it's kind of like leggings, so we're going to make it to like right here. And then it's going to go down to how far you want the legs, the pants to be. Then we're going to cross over the leg, go up again. I like to stop here on the hip, like right there in the inner thigh. Then we're going to cross outside the outside her waist, or is that her hip? And then we're going to go back to the first dot. Press pause if you find that your pattern is falling, but don't worry, it's not ruined. We just need to right click on it and then rearrange patterns. Then we're going to select our edit pattern arrow, and like before with the t-shirt, we're just going to click on this middle line, right click, and then unfold. And then we're going to scroll into the crotch area right here, and you see that because we unfolded, it created another dot. We're going to get rid of that dot because if we leave it there, that means that we'll have to sew in between here and then sew under here, and I'd rather just sew one line there. So let's just delete this line and get that out of here. So we have a pair of pants, and then we're going to copy and paste just like we did with the t-shirt. So this is our front pattern, this is our back pattern, and I'm going to give them a little bit of color so that we can see what's going on here. So let's make them, oof, all these are so harsh, and that's terrible color. Never that color because that's frozen. Alright, there we go. So we have our military olive pants. So this is the back part of our pattern, and like before, because it goes behind it, we're going to flip it horizontally. Then we're going to put it behind her. And I know it doesn't look like that's going to cover all that butt, but don't worry, Marvelous Designer will work miracles and stretch it over all that peach. So let's start sewing our edges. Remember, no crooked lines. We want our lines to be straight. Nice straight lines. Now you can see here that it's crooked. It's like giving you a preview. We want to make sure that it is straight. There we go. There. And right here. And right there. Alright. So now that we have it, we're going to just press play. And Marvelous is going to stretch all over that. So there we go. Now you may notice that your back may be a little exposed. Like, if you want it to be even, we can just delete this middle dot for the back pattern, and we hold down shift and we can just pull it up. See if that'll help a little bit. I'm not sure really how one would go about evening out these pants. Yeah, that's good enough. If you think that the front is too high up, you can just like, oops, not do that. Okay, so if you do end up doing something silly like that, just undo, rearrange, pull it back, and then press play. There we go, see? Now, like I was trying to say, we just delete this dot and we can pull the pants down if you want them to be. I would like to say pull them down while it's active. And you can get a nice smooth thingamajig. That's so funny. Okay, so we have our pants, we have our stuff, and if you notice that there's some skin coming out, you can just click and pull it, and then it works itself out. But don't worry, we can fix all that in Blender. So now we have our basic t-shirt, and we have our basic pair of pants. You can make any kind of adjustments you want by lengthening, and the pattern, or if you want it to be loose, all you have to do is just pull it out some more like this. And you see the pants will get a little more looser on the body than that. So they don't have to be, tight pants. And if you want to hike them up, all you have to do is select the edges, the bottom edges here. And then you could just pull them up. And you see you'll get shorter pants. Just hike them all the way up too if you want some like nice workout capris or shorts or whatever. It's all up to you. Now, like I said here, you don't want them to overlap because this is your UV map for your pants. These patterns are your UV map, so you don't have to mark the seams or anything like that, or unwrap it, because this is the unwrap it. So if you were to overlap them like this, then that means that when you go to put your pattern on, it will just look gross. So we don't want that. So you're going to give them their own space. Put them here and right here. And now we're ready to export it for Blender. So now that we have everything already, we're going to save our project, because this will allow us to open it back up and open it up later on in Marvelous Designer if you want to come back and work on it some more. So we just save our project as, let's see. So we're going to save this as test garment. Now, we can open this project up anytime in Marvelous Designer without having to do it again. And now we need to export it so that we can put it in Blender. So to export it for Blender, you go to File, Export, OBJ. Navigate to your project folder. Save it as test garment. And we want to check the scale as M like we did before. Now, in Marvelous Designer 2, you have these options. I'm going to do unified UV coordinates, remove collapsed triangle claw, this one. And then we want to make sure that only cloth shape is exported. That's all. You don't want OBJ object shape, because that'll export another mannequin out there. We don't need that. We just want the clothes. So cloth shape, and hit OK. And then that's it. So now we're done with Marvelous Designer for this project. We just need to go into Blender and start putting it on the body, and then rigging it, and then exporting it, and then texturing it, and then bada boom, you got an outfit. So let's get on to that part and get this tutorial all wrapped up. See you in Blender.